Provas são necessariamente parte do crescimento espiritual do homem, um processo do aspirante ao caminho. Hora de crescer interiormente. O mito de Hércules hoje. Um livro lançado em 1988, onde Trigueirinho, a partir de observações baseadas, por um lado, em relatos estritamente mitológicos e, por outro, em fatos da vida moderna, constrói uma narrativa esplêndida e vivaz que ajuda a entrever soluções para os mais pungentes assuntos que inquietam os homens de hoje. Entre nesta aventura do Hércules com a Irdin Editora, agora em audiobook, em seu canal YouTube. Com este audiobook, a Irdin inicia o lançamento de seus audiobooks, promovendo assim uma maior acessibilidade e inclusão às obras da editora. Irdin Editora, a serviço da ampliação da consciência.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. We are here on the banks of the Lake of Dorns, Portugal, an emblematic, spiritually speaking place with many stories, records, positive records of the trajectory of the hierarchy with the humanity. And besides this content, we'll also share these vibrations. This is the sharing of August 2. We are near August 8th, which is the beginning of this cycle of the blossoming of the new seeds, a very important cycle. And today we will work with some questions that arrived, which can help us expand our perspective on the path, on the moment we are in, where we are heading, to have some more clarity about the awakening of our consciousness. So to help, we have some questions and also some dreams. Someone had a very important dream in symbolic life when some images present themselves to us with some small details that may be different. They permeate the same meaning as in the case of today. So the person dreamt that they were before a bed. The bed was completely tidied up, impeccably tidied up with a cover that covered the whole bed, including the pillow, everything. It was a couple bed. When they saw the bed, they felt that something accommodated within them. In symbolic life, when we dream with a bed, especially a couple bed, especially when studied up, it may mean that our karma with the sexual energy is relatively harmonized. This topic is quiet, balanced, harmonious, and serene without any kind of movement that may indicate some activation of this within us. So this is very important symbol for this person who may be in need of this understanding to take a step in the topic of their inner union. And someone asks how not to become mistaken in the topic of the spiritual quest in a time in which there are so many different things offered to humanity, how to seek correctly. We have to direct our energy, our intention to some place to have a minimum clarity about what we are looking for, because when it's clear to us what we are looking for, this with capital T will help us gradually make this approximation and understand what we are facing. Because if we do not know what we are looking for, will not be able to understand what we will be finding. So if we feel attracted by spirituality, by mysticism, by knowledge, but we do not have a clear goal of why we are seeking this, what moves us towards this? Is this love for something higher? Is it curiosity? Is this greed for knowledge or some kind of power that we believe that we will have as we master some practice? Again, if we do not know what we are looking for, we cannot understand what we start to find. Is this clear? It's very important that we always scrutinize, look for very clearly uh, to understand what is moving our seeking, so that those energies, angels, energies, great divas, creation as a whole will gradually come towards us. And that's what is said. When we take a step towards this with capital T, this takes 10 steps towards us. But when it's lowercase t, it may even confuse us a lot. There are many uh, things and energies in the astral plane that are disguised as if they were higher hierarchies. So those who do not know what they are looking for cannot understand what they start to find. Okay. In this topic of the spiritual path, we need to understand that depending on our effort on the one hand and our surrender on the other hand, we will find the possibility to take great steps and go over abysses that will be beside us. We'll be dealing with a planet that is filled with involutionary forces that are scattered in the universe, chaotic forces that may confuse us again with rewards, gratifications for our personality and even for our inner world, and to may lead us to a path that is less of light. This is why clarity of what we are looking for may put us in a cyclical way, be, depending on our karma, before many opportunities, but also many risks of becoming confused, the risk of losing the proportion, the sense of proportion of what we are, risk of not understanding our humble and precise place and proportion before the universe. So if we are moving on with humility, gratitude, always this with capital T will illuminate our next step and will feel paradoxically the need to surrender, to abandon before the unknown and an inner security. So we'll be deeply protected in this trajectory. This is a very important detail. The great steps, if our karma allows us, and the great risks that this brings, because our vehicles, as we have studied, need some time to adapt to this higher vibration that we gradually contact. So this pulsation of the inner worlds, higher life knows us deeply. Let's not be mistaken. We are not in the control of this. So we make this offering, and the vibration of all this gradually positions us in a rhythm, and we feel an inner security, although we do not see anything, we do not understand a lot, but internally we feel that we are on the right path. So let's head our compass towards the correct north, the north of the hierarchies polarized with the light. Someone asks, what is comparison on the spiritual path? Comparison is in the hierarchy of distraction, curiosity, the seeking for power. Because if we are concentrated on what our path is, in other words, our next step, what I have to dedicate myself to on this moment, what I have to surrender that does not correspond to me to act upon. So this chemistry gradually creates a humility that prevents us from these more peripheral situations, because when we pay attention to the path of other people, I lose track of my own path. So in an unconscious attempt, I try to mm, undervalue the path of others, because comparison without our noticing gradually takes us to the path of lack of gratitude. So if I am in this attitude of understanding that the universe is omnipresent and therefore it's in everyone, comparison has no meaning, no makes no sense at all. I may I may pay attention to the hierarchies, but one thing is to have a reference. Something else is my comparing myself to any reference, which are different things. So when a comparison emerges in us, this will lead us inevitably to envy, criticism, jealousy, curiosity. I will gradually, without perceiving, losing the focus of my path. My path is the path that the Creator established for me. So if I am really surrendered to this path, what happens to the others will be interpreted by my consciousness by the same scale of values that I am dedicating to my path, because it's the same filter. So if I am grateful for my effort, for my surrender, for my consciousness being really dedicated to this, when I look around me, I will see in them a, a copy of the same effort that I'm making, that my lens can see with the eyes of gratitude, of effort, of surrender, believing sincerely that others may be on the same path. And if they aren't, at least this radiation will do them good. So be very careful with comparison, because otherwise the mind removes a lot of focus from our work, and at a certain point we may lose track and clarity on our own process. So comparison on the spiritual path is really dangerous. Someone watched the video on the topic of the language, Irdin, the Irdin language, and they ask on the internet, someone is sharing contents on Irdin and is asking if this is true or not. Look, we cannot compare or what other people are discovering. Everything is a cosmic language. Any human being may make contact with the Irdin language. We have no way to evaluate this. What is important to observe is what kind of life this person has, what kind of work they develop, because from the fruits you will know the tree, and so on and so forth. But we have no way to comment if this is true or not. It wouldn't be ethical or correct on my part. And see how symbolic life, in an impulse, in a glimpse, as we say, it may show us the moment that we are at the current moment. I dreamt that I found a golden ring with silver, with of gold and silver, part in silver, with two diamonds. A ring of gold and silver with two diamonds. I don't know if they were diamonds, but they were shining stones, something precious. You see, this may have lasted 1 second or even less, and see how this is important to this in person. A gold ring may indicate an opportunity that the person that is being offered to the personality. The ring was not being worn on the ring, pay attention to the moment. This gold ring means this shine of the inner world and an open path to the inner alliance, unity. So the inner world is opening itself, showing that this individual is at a moment to contact within themselves the synthesis of evolutionary experiences, which the gold, this most precious aspect, means. And silver means, in this context, a protection that permeates this ring with this inner world and indicates it's a favorite moment for inner connection. And the diamonds may mean that you have two virtues in your inner world that are available. They shine in your inner world so that you may live these virtues, these gifts, and make them available in the context where you live and you act. So you have an inner alliance available to you through gold and a protection that is available, silver, in this moment of your evolutionary path. And you have two virtues to decide if you put them in your finger and live them. You see, this may have taken place 1 second. We have 24 hours every day. Isn't our inner world sending us symbols to our conscious or unconscious world, and we may not perceive because we are not paying attention? It's very important, and I want to thank the person who sent it. Here, a symbol is very important for the light community of Figueira, the spiritual center of Figueira, which, as a matrix, as a replication, it can be applied to many situations in which the evolutionary path gains consistency and gradually generates a record. So the person dreamt that they arrived in the light community of Figueira, this work that you all have heard about, founded by Tiguerin almost 40 years ago. And the community was built in three different levels. The first two levels, maybe stories, and the third level, the higher level, was still being built with many movements in this sense. At a certain moment, someone who was on the third level showed to this person a fruit from a tree. This fruit had one peel after the other one. It had, when they tasted the fruit, it had the taste of the peel, and the person said the fruit was not good. Was not good. No, someone approaching said, "No, the fruit is good. It's the same tree, and I tasted it, and it's very good." And the person heard, which was a synthesis of an instruction for all of us. That's very good. The tree, the tree here is the symbol of that. The tree is healthy. They heard it. They heard the message. The tree is healthy. The tree is healthy. My tangerine is good. At this moment, they saw the image of a tree in which each person that will harvest will pick up the fruit from this branch of the tree. They see that the branch re- recorded throughout these 40 years the memory of the previous fruit that had been picked up. So each one that picked up their fruit, they left their record, and the next one who would pick up a new tree, either the fruit was deteriorated, deformed, or healthy and tasteful. Could you follow? So we think that a work like this and so many others that exist in the world, they are sustained by some miracle or by some external factor. But the dream that is extremely important for us depending on our attitude as we pick up this fruit, this will determine if the fruit will be more tasteful for the one that will pick up next, or will deteriorate the fruit for the next one. This will deteriorate or will improve the tree. So, isn't this a very important symbol for the work and for all of us who have this love for Figueira or this love for any spiritual work? It depends on the way we pick up the fruit. This becomes assimilated. Our attitude will determine how the next fruit will be. So, if it is a feeling of deep gratitude for having been awakened, forgiven, having an evolutionary opportunity, it will bring a healthy fruit and tasteful fruit for the one who will pick up next. So, on the other hand, if we become hostile before this, this will also generate a karma that the one who will come next will pick up fruit that will be deformed in the face of what the tree represents. It's a very important dream indeed. The person asks, if we perceive and how we perceive the difference between the energy of repulsion, rejection, of from a moment in which we are with some degree of intolerance or saturated from repetitive experiences, maybe due to the lack of acceptance or misunderstanding. So one thing is the path to the other. When we take a leap or to take a stride, which also has many risks, we have to have a favorable karma for this. We have to identify the cyclical moment for this, in which many conjunctures converge for that to be possible, creating an exceptional condition, spiritual and inner condition within and outside of us. But this requires an adaptation on our vehicles to be able to endure the states of consciousness that is beyond the portal. It's also, it depends on how much we will be able to endure our to feel in our consciousness this new level that we'll have after we take the leap. So in this case of repulsion or intolerance, our soul, when it awakens, it starts to see that some places, some behaviors, some companies, some things from the vehicle start disturbing them, because they know that the program for their vehicles in that incarnation is not that one. So it begins to create in their mental body these situations of intolerance, being impatient with some things, become saturated with some things, not being able to stay in some environments. This is the path from down upward. But when the moment comes, a correction, it's not the soul that radiates the repulsion, it's the spirit. The soul not always has the power to emanate repulsion as it is incarnated. Many of its aspects are in the incarnation. So when the soul tries to irradiate the energy of repulsion, it knows that depending on the ray of the soul, it may not be able to. If it's an even ray, it will try to radiate, but it cannot radiate repulsion because it's still experiencing it. In general, the energy of repulsion comes from the spirit, which is a level that is looking to the immaterial energy and is not interested in what is happening here. So, if our spirit has the energy of will that is interested in cosmic life, it will really emanate an energy of repulsion. It will be very good. And if some degree of intolerance and being saturated of being certain places will emerge here, down here, it's important that this energy of intolerance may not be felt as an energy of anger, but be seen as a thermometer to refrain the person from becoming involved with some situations and perceive what our spirit wants us to do. So the repulsion comes from the spirit, and the soul may reflect or not, depend on the way it will modulate the potency of this repulsion, because no soul will want to hurt its bodies, only in some temperaments, but this is very rare. In this field, in this segment of soul, it's important to remember that the soul, as a matrix, it has two polarities, masculine and feminine. We have a next number of incarnations in the masculine polarity and another number of incarnations in the feminine polarity. In this time, there is a tendency for the soul to start making a synthesis of the polarities within it. I'm referring to the souls that are awakened to the spiritual path, not the majority, but those who are on the path tend to enter an experience of synthesis of their polarities. So someone had the dream that indicated clearly a moment of conflict between their two polarities in the soul, and it became an image that is the following. They were in a house. The situation took place inside a house. A very powerful wind entered the house, and a window was pressed by the wind. They were not able to hold the window. They asked help from their father, but they pretended to be doing something else, not paying attention. They became angry. They saw there was a group of being outside of the house calling them to be outside the house, and they would be in a better condition. So they left the house, and being outside, they saw a group of people and feeling a more harmonious environment, more group feeling. And at a certain moment, they saw in this external place their mother that was getting ready for a cycle of trips. So they perceived some symbol, especially when they heard from someone of the group, look, this place is a little hostile indeed, but this house is called the house of tenderness. Tenderness in Spanish is tenderness. I ask because there are some brothers and sisters here who are of the Spanish language. This is a very important dream connected to some things of the life of the soul. This father distracted, and this mother who was also busy with trips and travels. Maybe the masculine and feminine aspects of the soul still not concentrated on this place of tenderness that this house represents. So this dream is bringing to the person a suggestion for them to find within themselves, within their inner world, a place of tenderness, a place in which both polarities of the soul may enter a common point, a certain degree of harmony, not being distracted or affected by this hostility that the person is living. So this dream is a little hermetic, I understand, but the key to the dream is the house is called a place of tenderness. What disturbed the person, even irritated them when they saw the strong wind. It was not the wind. If the wind is a symbol of something very unstable, that's the energy of anger. The energy of anger is very dynamic. It moves as a dream, as a wind. So the most important thing is that the house is a place of tenderness. So the wind, the central point was the reaction when they were not able to hold the window that was being affected by the wind. So when we are not in this place of tenderness within us, this movement of hostility and restlessness disturbs us a little. When someone is called outside the house And when they find people, which is a symbol of group life, and they hear this place, as hostile as it may be seen, it's called the place of tenderness. So this restlessness appears. Let's seek this place of tenderness within us because it'll be available, not be struggling with this window because our father and mother are distracted and will not help us. But the place of tenderness may be an invitation to find within us this place of harmony. Oh, here a boat appeared here, so you heard. But this is part of this context. We were talking about the wind, so the sound of the waves is part of the context. So someone asked if symbols taught in the book Mislitlan, A World That Awakens by Trigueirinho and Foundations of the Fiery World, if there is a recommendation on the work with these symbols, if they are up to date. Every work indicated by the hierarchy will also always be current and adequate, up to date. Any guideline from the hierarchy can be applied as long as it is adequate for our moment, that we can experience this exercise according to our current moment. The exercises in the book Misitlan offers work with colors and forms, and foundations of the fiery world are forms accompanied with many inner experiences of the author himself, and the affirmations, evolutionary affirmations before the world and humanity. You have to see what exercises adapts to your moment. But what is important before any exercise is not to create any expectation. So the exercise is a resource, a form, or colors, or an evolutionary statement, and through this concentration, this will discipline your bodies to perceive that which was already present. And here it's important that we do not be mistaken. Light is omnipresent. The good is omnipresent. What we do is to change our condition and become aware of what was already there. We do not create a condition that is omnipresent. We change our condition and we start perceiving shades and reflections of what is already present. It's important, otherwise, we'll go to the path of magic. If I do this, that will happen. No, this may be like that up to a certain point, but in immaterial life, in symbolic life, the symbols are like a door so that we may contact a reality that was already there, veiled by some sub-level or dimension, and that becomes visible and clear if it corresponds to our moment. So this is so true that three people, if they do the exercise, they will have different experiences. Every door, if it were the same for everyone, the result would be the same for everyone, but it's different. The spiritual exercise is very individual and it's different for each one. Practice it and see the result. It depends on you. If it's harmony, aspiration, quietness of the bodies, a need for self-emptying, you are on the path of light. If it causes you some disturbance, it may mean that you are forcing a situation through the exercise to obtain a result. So be very careful. Here someone asks how we can develop and mature our inner discernment. I have been talking a lot about discernment, which is a state of our mental body and our inner body that is essential at this moment. Without discernment, we may take many projections from the astral plane or even mental planes as inner realities that are higher, that would be higher, and we become mistaken and confused. So discernment is very important. for us to work. We can work discernment in many levels on our trajectory. So depending on the level at which you are, the work with discernment will be on the level that corresponds to your aspiration or surrender, your spiritual commitment. To the extent that you try to serve the planet, this will modulate how, to what extent you will work discernment. If we are talking about a more mature stage, you can only enter this more mature state with discernment when you start to accept that you need to kind of suspect about your attitude. When we are in a stage that is mixed between human aspiration with the awakening, we bring to our awakening a lot of self-affirmation, as if we were totally secure about what we are experiencing. On the one hand, it is true, but this is not absolute truth. This is a moment that you are living. When we start to suspect about our own perspective, we start seeing that we are deeply helped to see the situations from different perspectives, the same situation. This is a process. This process without humility is impossible. Before this, we may mix without perceiving our idiosyncrasies and tendencies and call this discernment. We may have references, tendencies, tastes, and we may call this discernment. No, discernment is a very neutral energy that comes from a place in our consciousness that see things in a different way and illuminates the environment that needs to live a process of discernment. And we may be alert to the fact that human idiosyncrasy in that context does not serve, is not good. That concept is not applicable at that moment. And it's a long inner process that will require, at a certain point, a gradual control, if we can say, an ascension of the energy of the inner world and into the energy of the personality. Our ego will react as it sees that the consciousness will not accept as before what the ego wanted, and a difficult process because the ego, what we call the guardian of the threshold, will try to convince them with all reasons that this is not so. This struggle, which is a word in English that to me has no translation, this restlessness, this near conflict between discernment and the tendencies is an inevitable stage on the path of the one who is awakening to a deeper commitment, who will need to discern and start refusing to accept the tendencies of their bodies. It's not simple. In simple things, in food, at the community, in the attachments, it's really a struggle. It's a deep tension that is created because it's starting from fidelity to our discernment that our inner world may start showing us a little more of our path. As long as all I live depends on the ego, this is the path of personality. It's okay, but the higher path, the awakening to spiritual service and the service for the planet, is not the path of the personality. The path of the personality is to surrender to the inner world, to make silence to its topics, and allow inner life to project itself here. It's a different logic. This will prepare the expansion of consciousness as we have studied, or initiations, which is the inner world more and more having an ascension and mastery over the bodies of the personality. And with this, we gain a little more maturity, spiritual maturity. And to the extent that we manage to polish and discipline, and many times refuse to accept the movements of our bodies, will be able to receive the radiations of the spiritual realities, as we studied in the last sharing, without being manipulated to our own benefit. Is it clear? Because if I attune with the energies of the mirrors of Dorns, for example, this merges in a place of my consciousness that is manipulated by my ego, this will be distorted. It's not for being distorted that I make contact with this energy. So we need to discern, to learn to discern, because discernment is a very neutral energy, because way beyond causing a hurt in us, a wound in us, it's a matter of starting the path of resignation, my fidelity to the path that I have chosen. So discernment is a very necessary energy and fundamental in these times. This will only come, the discernment will only come after we have gone through a cycle of tests in our personality, when we were tempted to follow a habit and something in us emerged within our inner world and said, "Do you really need this? Have you experienced this? Do you really need this?" Observe in your lives if this has happened. When it starts happening, it's a sign that the inner world needs the experience of discernment, because it wants to expand the potency of inner life and the radiation that it is receiving, also for the vehicles to help balance all the dissociation in the world. So something appears, our personality sees itself before an impulse from within that says, "Do you really need this? Will you insist on this? Have you seen this? Will you insist on this?" The consciousness clearly perceives when this starts happening, the individual starts suspecting and gradually surrenders to the inner voice, and Elena Blavatsky called the voice of silence. It starts emerging internally and starts guiding them. It's a logic that is completely different from the logics of tendencies, of preferences, of attachments, of expectations. It's a completely different logics. It's the path of mature evolution, the ones who want to evolve within the planetary centers. It's very important that we gradually muster forces to start listening to this voice that says, "No, do not do this, do not insist on this, do not continue thinking this way." The point is, this human mechanism has so much a life of its own that it's very difficult to break the cycle. So an impulse comes, the mental body hijacks that, mobilizes a feeling, projects that etherically. This unleashes a desire, and we see ourselves completely involved in a situation that is clearly not related to us. So the development of discernment in us is really something very important, but it depends on our wanting to live this. The mosquitoes are a part of the scenery. It's important to learn to live in harmony with this voice of silence that will start showing us this yes, this no, careful, go this way, try this other way to do things. This is our inner world trying to empower itself and master our ego, our bodies, and our inner process. It's very important. Very good. Well, who knows, after this sharing, we will be more watchful with the fruits that we harvest and pick up of all we have received. It's not only Figueira and a work in itself, it's everything that we have picked from the great religions, from the great sages, Christ, Buddha. Everything we pick up depends on our attitude. We'll leave in that branch, we'll leave that branch healthier for the one who will come next, or will deteriorate that. See the responsibility of the spiritual path, a mature spiritual path, not the path of practices, of weekend practices. This is useful, better than other things, but still not what the level we want to reach. But let's continue to be attentive. Maybe our soul has a ring for us of gold, silver, and diamonds to give us. Do we want to make a ring, an alliance with this, or an alliance with the world? I'm I'm not our alliance is with our inner world, regardless of our spirit, our human experience. But we have to make a decision what will give the quality to each human bond is the bond with the inner world. I put the ring in my finger. This will promote a higher relationship with the higher levels, my relationship with everything that is around me. This is a balance of the cross, as we said, the balance of what is higher with what is horizontal. Well, all of you who have questions, who have impressions, experiences, bring to us. You see how from questions and dreams we make important reflections that may help us in our current next steps, may help clarify our decisions, may calm down our more human part. So bring these questions. Next week is an important date of the 8th of August of the 8th month. It's a symbol of awakening of impulses for humanity. So it's a cyclical moment that I recommend that everyone make an offering on this day to be receptive, because a renewal comes for the planet, a synthesis. It's an important moment. The sharing of the ninth will be a sharing for the inner work of the it will not be a public sharing. I will work with a deepening of our work, and we return in an open way on the 16th. Okay, very well. Stay with this beautiful sunset of the Lake of Dorns. We have mirrors, immaterial bases, healing energies, and it's available in the simplicity of this wood and this lake. Okay, so good evening. I see you next sharing.